"You should come," Sally whispered into the phone, her voice cracking. "It would mean everything if you were there for me." I pressed the phone tighter against my ear despite the exhaustion from another 70-hour workweek. Sally had been my best friend since college, the kind of friend who knew my coffee order by heart and could tell when I was faking a smile. "Of course I'll be there," I said, already mentally rearranging my schedule. "What's the occasion?" The pause lasted 3 seconds too long. "My wedding. Next Saturday. I know it's short notice, but please, Kim. I need you there." The room tilted. My coffee mug slipped from my other hand, shattering against the kitchen floor in a spray of ceramic and lukewarm coffee. "Your wedding." My voice came out strangled. "To who?" Another pause. This one felt like drowning. "To David." David. My David. The man I'd dated for 4 years. The man who'd promised me forever 6 months ago before deciding he needed space to find himself. The man whose absence had carved a hole in my chest that still bled every morning when I woke up alone. "You're marrying David," I repeated, each word tasting like ash. "My David." "Kim, please, it's not like that. We didn't mean for this to happen. Just did. We fell in love, and I know it's complicated, but I really hope you can be happy for us. You're my best friend. I can't imagine getting married without you there." The audacity of it stole my breath. She wanted me there. To witness her marry the man I'd planned my entire future around. To smile and celebrate while my heart shattered into smaller and smaller pieces. "Hey there, my wonderful friend. How's your day going? I hope it's better than Kim's right now. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this story so far. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from, and whether you've ever felt betrayed by someone you trusted completely. Kim, are you still there?" I should have screamed. Should have told her exactly what kind of person she was. Should have said everything burning in my throat. Instead, I heard myself say, "I'll be there." I hung up before she could respond. That's how I ended up at Murphy's bar at 11:30 on a Friday night, 6 days before the wedding I should never have agreed to attend. The bartender had stopped asking if I wanted another drink 3 glasses of wine ago. He just kept pouring while I kept drinking, trying to drown the image of Sally in a white dress, David looking at her the way he used to look at me. "Rough night." The voice came from my left, deep and smooth like expensive whiskey. I didn't bother looking up. "Rough life," I muttered into my wine glass. "Those tend to start with rough nights." Something in his tone made me turn. The man sitting 2 stools away wasn't what I expected. He wore a simple black shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms marked with ink I couldn't quite make out in the dim light. His face was all sharp angles and dark eyes that seemed to see straight through whatever mask I was wearing. He couldn't have been much older than 35, but he carried himself with a kind of quiet authority that made the air around him feel heavier. "Are you trying to pick me up?" I asked, too drunk to care about politeness. "Because I'm really not in the mood for whatever line you're about to feed me." A small smile touched his lips. "No line. Just observed you've been sitting here for 2 hours looking like you're trying to drink away a memory. Figured you might want someone to talk to. Or not. I can go back to my drink." He started to turn away, and something in me cracked. Maybe it was the wine. Maybe it was the crushing loneliness. Maybe it was the fact that in 6 days I'd have to watch the 2 people I'd trusted most in the world pledge forever to each other while I stood there pretending I was fine. "My ex is marrying my best friend," I blurted out. "Next Saturday. And I'm invited. Actually, she specifically asked me to come. Said she couldn't imagine getting married without me there." The stranger turned back, his dark eyes studying me with an intensity that should have made me uncomfortable but somehow didn't. "That's remarkably cruel," he said simply. The validation, coming from a complete stranger, broke something loose in my chest. Suddenly I was talking, words spilling out like wine from an overturned bottle. I told him everything. About David and our 4 years together. About his request for space that turned into a breakup. About Sally's calls during those dark months, her shoulder that I'd cried on, never knowing that she was falling into bed with him behind my back. About the wedding invitation that had arrived with my name written in her perfect handwriting, like she hadn't just destroyed my entire world. And the worst part. I laughed, but it came out broken. I said yes. I actually agreed to go. Because I'm too much of a coward to tell her the truth, that I hope her marriage crashes and burns and she finally understands what she did to me. Why did you agree? He asked, and there was no judgment in the question, just genuine curiosity. Because if I don't go, they win. They get to write the narrative that I'm bitter and jealous and can't handle their happiness. But if I show up, looking amazing with someone incredible on my arm, then maybe I can salvage some dignity. Maybe I can prove that I'm fine. That they didn't break me. But you are broken, he observed quietly. The truth of it made my eyes sting. Yeah, I am. We sat in silence for a moment, the bar's old jukebox playing something slow and melancholy. What if you didn't have to go alone? He said finally. I looked at him, not understanding. What if you had someone on your arm? Someone who could play the part convincingly enough that your ex and your former friend spent the whole wedding wondering how you managed to upgrade so spectacularly. It took a moment for his meaning to sink through the wine fog. Are you offering to be my fake boyfriend? I asked, incredulous. I'm offering to help you reclaim your dignity. I laughed, actually laughed for the first time in days. That's insane. I don't even know your name. Dante, he said, extending his hand. Dante Rossi. I shook it, his grip firm and warm. Kim Crawford. Well, Kim Crawford, do you want to show up at that wedding alone? Or do you want to show up with someone who'll make your ex question every decision he's ever made? The wine had made me bold and stupid and desperate. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app with clumsy fingers. How much? Yes. How much would it cost to hire you for one day? To come to this wedding and pretend you're crazy about me and make them all wonder how I landed someone like you. Dante's expression shifted, something flickering in those dark eyes that I was too drunk to interpret. I don't want your money, Kim. Everyone wants money, I slurred. That's how the world works. So name your price, please. I'm desperate and I have savings and I just need this one thing. I need to walk into that church and not feel like the pathetic girl they left behind. He watched me for a long moment, and I couldn't read what was happening behind those calculating eyes. Fine, he said finally. I'll do it. No charge. Consider it a favor for someone who's had a rough night. I wanted to argue, to insist on paying, but the room was starting to spin and his face was getting blurry around the edges. The wedding is next Saturday, I managed. Noon. St. Catherine's Church on Riverside. Will you remember? I'll remember. Promise. He smiled, and there was something almost predatory in it, though at the time I was too far gone to notice. I promise, Kim Crawford. I'll be there. The next thing I remembered was waking up in my own bed, still fully clothed, my head pounding like a construction site. Fragments of the previous night drifted back. The phone call from Sally. The wine. The stranger at the bar. The fake boyfriend I'd apparently hired in a drunken haze. I grabbed my phone with trembling hands, scrolling through my recent calls and messages. Nothing. No number for Dante Rossi. No evidence that the conversation had been anything more than a wine-soaked fantasy my desperate brain had conjured. Relief and disappointment crashed over me in equal measure. Of course it hadn't been real. Men who looked like that didn't hang around in dive bars offering to help heartbroken women salvage their dignity. I'd imagined the whole thing, or at least exaggerated it into something it wasn't. Saturday arrived with the inevitability of an execution. I'd bought a new dress, deep emerald green, because Sally had once told me I looked washed out in green. My hair was perfect. My makeup was flawless. I looked beautiful and confident and completely hollow inside. The church loomed ahead, all white stone and stained glass, already filling with guests. I sat in my car in the parking lot, hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to force myself to walk inside alone. You can do this, I told myself. You can walk in there with your head high and get through this day, and then you never have to see either of them again. I was halfway across the parking lot when I heard it. The low rumble of an expensive engine. Turned. The car that pulled up was the kind that cost more than my annual salary, sleek and black and utterly out of place in this modest church parking lot. But it wasn't the car that made my heart stop. It was the man who stepped out of it. Dante Rossi looked like he'd walked out of a dream, or possibly a nightmare. The casual bar patron was gone, replaced by someone who commanded attention without saying a word. His suit was perfectly tailored, dark and elegant, making him look like power personified. His hair was styled back, revealing the full intensity of his face, those dark eyes that had seen through me a week ago. He was real. He'd actually come. People were already staring as he walked toward me, their conversations dying mid-sentence. There was something about him that demanded attention, a presence that made everyone else fade into the background. "Kim," he said, my name sounding different in his mouth in the daylight, with sobriety between us. "You look beautiful." "You came," I breathed, still half convinced this was a hallucination. "I thought I'd imagined you. I made a promise." He offered his arm, that same small smile playing at his lips. "Shall we go break some hearts?" I slipped my hand through his arm, feeling the solid muscle beneath the expensive fabric. He was real and warm and here, and suddenly walking into that church didn't seem quite so impossible. We made it 3 steps toward the entrance when I heard a sharp intake of breath behind us. "Holy hell," someone whispered. "Is that Dante Rossi?" "It can't be," another voice hissed. "What would he be doing here? Who's the girl?" I felt Dante's arm tense slightly beneath my hand, but his expression remained perfectly calm. "Friends of yours?" I murmured. "Not exactly." There was something in his tone I couldn't quite place. "Shall we give them something to talk about?" Before I could ask what he meant, he guided me up the church steps. The massive wooden doors swung open, and we stepped inside. The effect was instantaneous and electric. Conversations stopped mid-word. Heads turned in perfect synchronization. The entire church full of wedding guests went absolutely silent, staring at the man on my arm with expressions ranging from shock to something that looked almost like fear. At the front of the church, standing with the priest, David turned. His face went pale. In the front pew, Sally stood frozen, her hand pressed to her mouth. But what made my blood run cold wasn't their reactions. It was the way everyone else was looking at Dante. Not with admiration or curiosity. With recognition. With reverence. With terror barely concealed behind polite masks. "Kim," Dante said softly, his hand covering mine where it rested on his arm. "We should talk." "Who are you?" I whispered, suddenly very aware that I'd gotten into a car with this man, that I was touching him, that I knew absolutely nothing about him except a name that might not even be real. Exactly who I said I was. His eyes met mine, dark and unfathomable. "Dante Rossi. But there are some things I should have mentioned about what I do for a living." At the altar, David had gone from pale to green. The priest looked like he was considering running. "What kind of things?" My voice came out smaller than I intended. Dante's smile was almost apologetic. "The kind of things that make men very afraid, Kim. The kind of things that make a church full of people wonder why the city's most dangerous man is attending a wedding with a woman they've never seen before." The room spun, but this time it had nothing to do with wine. I'd hired a fake boyfriend to make my ex jealous. What I'd actually done was bring a monster into a church full of innocents. And from the way his hand tightened protectively over mine, he had no intention of letting me run. My instinct screamed to pull away, to run, to put distance between myself and this man who could silence a room with his presence alone. But Dante's hand remained steady over mine, not restraining, just present, grounding. "Breathe, Kim," he said quietly. "You're safe. I promise you're safe." "Safe?" I hissed, my voice barely audible. "Everyone looks like they're waiting for you to pull out a gun." "I'm not going to pull out a gun at a wedding." He paused. "Unless someone makes it necessary." "That's not reassuring." "It wasn't meant to be." His thumb traced a small circle on my hand, the gesture almost tender. But I meant what I said. You're safe with me. No one in this church will hurt you. Not while you're under my protection. Under your protection. The words tasted foreign. I don't need protection. I needed a fake boyfriend to get through an uncomfortable wedding. That's it. Something flickered in his dark eyes. And that's what I'm giving you. Everything else is just details. Before I could argue, Sally appeared in front of us, her face a mask of frozen politeness. Up close, she looked beautiful in her champagne-colored bridesmaid dress, her blonde hair styled in perfect waves. 3 months ago, I would have told her she looked stunning. Now I wanted to tell her she looked like a traitor. Kim, she said, her voice tight. I'm so glad you came. And you brought a guest. How wonderful. Her eyes flickered to Dante with barely concealed terror. She knew who he was. Everyone knew who he was except me. Sally, this is Dante, I said, finding strength I didn't know I possessed. Dante, this is Sally, the bride's best friend. We used to be close. The past tense landed like a slap. Sally flinched. Mr. Rossi, she said carefully. This is an unexpected honor. I didn't realize you knew Kim. I know Kim very well, Dante replied smoothly, his arm sliding around my waist with easy possession. She's remarkable. I'm sure you've noticed. The implication hung in the air. Sally had noticed me, known me, and chosen to betray me anyway. I should get back, Sally said quickly. Kim, we'll talk later. I doubt it. She retreated like I'd struck her, disappearing into the crowd gathering near the altar. That felt good, I admitted quietly. Power usually does. Dante guided me toward an empty pew near the back. But be careful. It's addictive. We sat, and I became hyper-aware of every eye tracking our movement. An older man in an expensive suit nodded at Dante with deference. A woman clutched her husband's arm, whispering frantically. 2 men near the side door looked like they were debating whether to leave. Why are they all so afraid of you? Yes. Dante was quiet for a moment, his gaze sweeping the church with the practiced ease of someone always assessing threats and exits. Because I control things that matter to them, he said finally. Their businesses, their safety, their secrets. When you hold that much power over people's lives, fear is inevitable. And what exactly do you control? He turned to look at me fully, and I saw something in his face I hadn't noticed before. Loneliness, maybe. Or weariness. Everything that happens in this city after dark, he said. And quite a bit that happens during the day. The implication settled over me like ice water. You're a criminal. I'm a businessman who operates in gray areas. His voice held no apology. I provide services that people need but won't admit to wanting. I protect my territory and the people loyal to me. I make hard decisions so others don't have to. That's a very pretty way of saying you're a criminal. Would you prefer I use uglier words? He tilted his head. I've killed people, Kim. I've destroyed businesses and ended careers. I've done things that would make you lose sleep if I described them in detail. But I've never lied about what I am. My heart hammered against my ribs. You lied to me. The bar. You didn't tell me any of this. You didn't ask. He leaned back against the pew, somehow looking completely relaxed in a church full of terrified people. You asked me to come to a wedding and play a part. That's what I'm doing. Why? The question burst out. Why would someone like you help someone like me? What could you possibly get out of this? For the first time since entering the church, Dante's carefully controlled expression cracked, revealing something raw underneath. You want the truth? He asked quietly. At that bar, you were the first person in 5 years to look at me and see a human being instead of a reputation. You were broken and desperate and drunk, but you talked to me like I was just a man. Do you have any idea how rare that is? The vulnerability in his voice caught me off guard. This wasn't the feared crime lord everyone else saw. This was something else. Someone else. So this is what? Charity. This is two broken people helping each other through a difficult day. He met my eyes. You needed someone to make you feel less alone. Turns out, so did I. Before I could respond, music swelled through the church. The wedding march. Everyone stood, turning toward the back doors as they opened to reveal the bride. I'd prepared myself for this moment. Prepared to see Sally in her wedding dress, radiant and beautiful, marrying the man I'd loved. I'd steeled myself for the pain. What I hadn't prepared for was feeling Dante's hand find mine. His fingers interlacing with my own in a gesture that felt nothing like pretense. "You can leave," he murmured as the bride began her walk down the aisle. "Say the word and we'll walk out right now. You don't owe these people anything." I watched Sally glide past, her eyes finding David at the altar. Her face glowing with happiness that should have been mine. The pain was there, sharp and hot, but it was different now. Smaller somehow. More manageable. "No," I said, squeezing Dante's hand. "I'm staying. I'm going to watch this wedding, and I'm going to walk out of here with my head high. And they're going to know they didn't destroy me." "That's my girl," Dante said softly, and something in my chest fluttered at the possessiveness in his voice. The ceremony began. The priest's voice echoed through the vaulted ceiling, talking about love and commitment and forever. I tried to focus on the words, but my attention kept drifting to the man beside me. Rossi, the city's most dangerous man. A criminal who just admitted to murder with the same ease most people admitted to jaywalking. And yet his hand in mine felt like the safest place I'd been in months. "Do you believe in it?" I whispered during a hymn. "Love and forever and all that." Dante's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "I believe in loyalty. In protecting what's yours. In keeping promises even when they cost you everything." He paused. "Love is just another word for those things, dressed up in prettier language. That's cynical. That's experience." At the altar, the priest was asking if anyone had objections to the union. The church fell silent, that breathless moment where anything could happen. Dante leaned close, his breath warm against my ear. "Last chance. Could object. Give you that satisfaction." The offer was tempting. The thought of watching David and Sally's perfect moment shatter, of having this dangerous man stand up and claim me in front of everyone. But that wasn't who I wanted to be. "No," I said. "Let them have their moment. I'm realizing I don't need it anymore." Something that might have been respect flickered across Dante's face. "You're stronger than you think. Or maybe I just found better company." He smiled, a real smile this time, and it transformed his entire face. "Careful, Kim. You keep saying things like that, and I might start thinking this arrangement is more than fake." My heart skipped. Would that be so bad? Before he could answer, the priest pronounced David and Sally husband and wife. The church erupted in applause. The happy couple kissed, then turned to walk back down the aisle, married and triumphant. As they passed our pew, David's eyes met mine, then shifted to Dante, then back to me with something that looked almost like regret. "Sally wouldn't even look at me." "Reception is in 2 hours at the Grandview Hotel," Dante murmured as people began filing out. "Do you want to make an appearance? You'd come with me." "I made a promise, Kim. I don't break promises." We stood preparing to leave, when a man appeared at the end of our pew. He was younger than Dante, maybe late 20s, with nervous energy and eyes that darted around like he expected an attack. "Boss," he said quietly, "we have a situation." Dante's entire demeanor shifted, the warmth evaporating into cold authority. "What kind of situation?" "The kind that needs your attention. Now." I felt Dante's hand tighten on mine, frustration rolling off him in waves. "Handle it, Spencer," he said firmly. "Boss, it's the Kincaid situation. They're moving tonight. If you don't respond." I said handle it. Dante's voice could have cut glass. "I'm not available." Spencer's eyes widened slightly, flickering to me with barely concealed shock. Whatever he'd expected, it wasn't this. It wasn't Dante Rossi choosing a fake girlfriend over business. Yes, sir, Spencer said carefully. I'll take care of it. He disappeared into the crowd, leaving questions hanging in the air. What's the Kincaid situation? I asked as we made our way outside. Nothing you need to worry about. Dante. Kim. He stopped, turning to face me on the church steps. The afternoon sun caught his face, highlighting the sharp angles and the weariness around his eyes. There are parts of my life that are dangerous. Parts one don't want touching you. Can you accept that? I should have said no. Should have run. Should have thanked him for his help and disappeared before I got pulled any deeper into whatever world he inhabited. Instead, I said, only if you accept that I'm not as fragile as you think. I survived David and Sally. I can handle more than you're giving me credit for. Something sparked in his dark eyes. You really are remarkable. So you keep saying. Maybe start believing it. He laughed, the sound unexpected and genuine. 2 hours until the reception. What do you want to do until then? I want you to tell me the truth, I said. All of it. Who you really are. What you really do. What I've actually gotten myself into by hiring the city's most feared man as my fake boyfriend. Dante studied me for a long moment, something shifting in his expression. All right, he said finally. But not here. Come with me. He offered his hand, took it, and followed a monster into the shadows, not knowing if I'd ever find my way back to the light. The Grandview Hotel ballroom glittered like something from a fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light across white linen and gold accents. A string quartet played softly in the corner. Guests mingled with champagne flutes, their laughter tinkling like the silverware against china. We shattered that illusion the moment we walked in. The conversations didn't just pause. They died. Every head turned, every eye locked onto Dante and me as we stood in the doorway. His hand rested on the small of my back, possessive and protective, marking me as his in a way that needed no words. Mr. Rossi, the maître d'hôtel stammered, appearing instantly at our side. We didn't realize you'd be attending. Please let me arrange a table. We're fine, Dante said smoothly. We won't be staying long. But the way he guided me into the room suggested otherwise. We moved through the crowd like a ship cutting through water, people parting instinctively to let us pass. I caught fragments of whispered conversations. Is that really him? Who's the girl? Someone should warn the bride. We found a table near the back with a clear view of the entire room. Dante positioned himself so his back was to the wall, his eyes constantly scanning, cataloging threats. 2 men in dark suits appeared at strategic positions around the ballroom. Dante's security, I realized. They'd followed us in. Subtle, I murmured. Necessary. His hand found mine under the table. Volkov's people could be anywhere. How will you know them? I'll know. A waiter appeared with champagne we hadn't ordered. Dante inspected both glasses carefully before handing one to me. Don't drink anything I haven't checked first, he said quietly. The paranoia was infectious. Suddenly every face looked threatening, every movement suspect. Kim. I looked up to find David standing beside our table. His face pale but determined. Close, he looked exactly as I remembered. Sandy hair, kind eyes, the slight dimple in his left cheek. 6 months ago this face had been my whole world. Now I felt nothing but distant annoyance. David. Kept my voice cool. Congratulations on your marriage. Can we talk? Privately. No. Dante's voice cut through before I could respond. Anything you have to say to Kim, you can say in front of me. David's eyes flickered to Dante with barely concealed terror. I don't think you understand. This is personal. Between me and Kim. I understand perfectly. Dante leaned back in his chair, the picture of casual menace. You're the ex-boyfriend who broke her heart and married her best friend. Now you want to assuage your guilt by explaining yourself. The answer is no. Kim doesn't owe you closure. I'm not talking to you, David said, trying for bravery but missing by miles. Kim, please. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I should have said no. Should have let Dante handle it. But some small part of me wanted this. Wanted to look David in the eye and show him exactly how little he mattered now. It's fine, I told Dante. 5 minutes. Dante's jaw tightened, but he nodded. I'll be watching. It wasn't a statement. It was a warning. David led me to a quiet corner near the terrace doors. Through the glass, I could see the city sprawling below, the same view I'd seen from Dante's office. Everything looked different from up here. Smaller. Less significant. What are you doing? David hissed the moment we were alone. Do you have any idea who that man is? I know exactly who he is. He's a criminal, Kim. Killer. People disappear when they cross him. Funny. I feel safer with him than I ever felt with you. David flinched like I'd slapped him. This isn't you. You're not the kind of person who gets involved with men like that. You're good and kind and boring, I supplied. Predictable. Easy to leave behind. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean, David? What could you possibly say that would make any of this okay? Years of suppressed anger bubbled up. You told me you needed space. That you had to find yourself. And the whole time you were sleeping with my best friend. The whole time Sally was holding me while I cried over you, she was betraying me. And you let it happen. I never meant to hurt you. But you did. You destroyed me. So forgive me if I don't care about your opinion on my current relationship choices. Relationship. David's voice rose. You can't be serious. A week ago you were alone. Now you're with the most dangerous man in the city. This is revenge, Kim. This is you trying to hurt me. You think this is about you. I laughed and it felt good. David, I haven't thought about you in days. Not since I met someone who actually sees me. Who doesn't need me to be smaller or quieter or more convenient. He's using you. Whatever he's told you, whatever he's made you feel, it's manipulation. That's what men like him do. Like you'd know anything about what men like him do. Dante's voice came from behind me, making us both jump. You've spent your whole life being mediocre and calling it safety. Don't project your weakness onto Kim. He'd moved silently across the ballroom, appearing like a shadow given form. David stumbled back a step. I was just trying to help. You were trying to make yourself feel better about your choices by convincing Kim hers are worse. Dante's hand settled on my waist. Your 5 minutes are up. We walked away, leaving David standing alone. I glanced back once and saw Sally approaching him, her wedding dress trailing behind her like a ghost. They spoke in urgent whispers, both looking at us. You all right? Dante asked as we returned to our table. Better than all right. That felt amazing. Good. He pulled out my chair. Because we have bigger problems. We should leave, I said urgently. We run, they follow. Better to face them here in public, where they can't make a move without witnesses. That's supposed to be reassuring. It's supposed to be true. The scarred man approached our table, his companions flanking him like wolves. Dante stood, positioning himself between them and me. Dante Rossi, the man said in heavily accented English. You're a hard man to reach. I've been busy. So I see. His eyes slid to me, cold and calculating. Pretty girl. New acquisition. Careful, Victor. Dante's voice dropped to a lethal purr. You're in a public place. Remember your manners. Just making conversation. Victor's smile widened. Mikhail wants to meet. Discuss the territory situation. Tell Mikhail if he wants to discuss anything. He can call me like a civilized human being. Not send thugs to interrupt my evening. Thugs. Victor's hand moved toward his jacket. Instantly, Dante's security closed in. The 2 men I'd noticed earlier, plus 3 more I hadn't seen, materialized from the crowd. The atmosphere went from tense to explosive. The entire ballroom fell silent, sensing the violence hovering just beneath the surface. Gentlemen, a new voice cut through. Spencer appeared, slightly out of breath, his phone in his hand. Mr. Kincaid is on the line. He wishes to speak with you, Victor. Victor took the phone, listened for a moment, his expression darkening. They understood. He handed the phone back to Spencer, his eyes never leaving Dante. It seems Mikhail extends his apologies. This was a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding, Dante repeated flatly. Tell Mikhail that the next time he sends men to threaten me in public, it won't end with a phone call. Victor and his men withdrew, but the menace in their eyes promised this wasn't over. The ballroom slowly returned to life, conversations resuming with an undercurrent of nervous energy. We need to leave, Spencer said quietly. That was too close. They're testing boundaries. Agreed. Dante turned to me. I'm sorry. This isn't how I wanted this evening to go. It's fine. I've seen what I came to see. But before we could move, Sally appeared, blocking our path. Her perfect makeup was smudged now, mascara staining her cheeks. Kim, please. We need to talk. Really talk. There's nothing to say. I'm sorry. The words burst out of her. I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. I fell in love with him, and I know that doesn't excuse anything, but I never wanted to hurt you. But you did hurt me. You both did. I know. And I hate myself for it. You're my best friend, Kim. You've always been my best friend. I can't lose you over this. Something in her voice cracked my anger. She looked genuinely devastated, tears streaming down her face, her perfect wedding day crumbling around her. You should have thought about that before you slept with my boyfriend, I said quietly. You made your choice, Sally. Now live with it. Please. Don't do this. Don't shut me out. She grabbed my hand. I love you. You're my sister. My family. We can get past this. We have to. For a moment I wavered. Remembered years of friendship. Late-night conversations and shared secrets and the feeling that someone truly understood me. Then I remembered Dante's hand in mine. The way he looked at me like I was worth protecting. Worth choosing. Worth everything. No, I said firmly. We can't get past this. Some betrayals are unforgivable. You'll have to learn to live with that. I pulled my hand free and walked away. Dante beside me, leaving Sally sobbing in her wedding dress. We made it to the elevator before my composure cracked. My hand started shaking, adrenaline and emotion finally catching up. You did well, Dante said softly as the doors closed. I feel terrible. You should. It means you're human. He pulled me against his chest, and I let myself lean into his strength. But you made the right choice. Some people don't deserve forgiveness. The elevator descended. I closed my eyes, breathing in his scent, letting his steady heartbeat ground me. Dante. Yes. When this is over, when the threats are handled and the danger passes, will you disappear? Was this just about today? He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. No, Kim. I don't think I could walk away from you if I tried. I looked up at him. Is that a promise? It's a warning. Because once I fully claim you as mine, once I let myself want you completely, there's no going back. For either of us. Maybe I don't want to go back. He kissed me then, deep and claiming, and I tasted possession and promise and danger all mixed together. The elevator reached the parking garage. The doors opened, and everything went to hell. Spencer was lying on the ground, blood pooling beneath him. Victor and 6 armed men surrounded us. And behind them, bound and gagged, was a woman I'd never seen before. But from the way Dante's entire body went rigid, I knew she mattered. Hello, Dante, Victor said pleasantly. Let's try this again. Mikhail wants a meeting. And this time you're going to say yes. Dante's hand tightened on mine, the only sign of his panic. Who is she? I whispered. My sister, he said, his voice hollow. They have my sister. Time seemed to suspend itself. Dante's sister couldn't have been more than 25, with the same dark hair and sharp features as her brother. Blood trickled from a cut above her eyebrow, and her eyes were wide with terror above the gag. "Sophia," Dante breathed, and I'd never heard his voice sound so broken. "Here's how this works," Victor said, checking his weapon with casual efficiency. "You come with us now, no resistance, and the girls live. You try anything heroic, and I put bullets in both of them. Starting with your pretty new girlfriend." 3 guns pointed at me. My heart hammered so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. "Let them go," Dante said, his voice steady despite the devastation in his eyes. "This is between you and me. They have nothing to do with our business. They have everything to do with it the moment you cared about them." Victor smiled. "That's the problem with men like you, Dante. You pretend to be monsters, but you have these inconvenient weaknesses. Sisters, girlfriends, people you love. I'll kill you for this." It wasn't a threat. It was a promise delivered with absolute certainty. "Maybe. But first you're coming with us. Spencer's car keys." Now. One of Victor's men kicked Spencer's motionless body. I couldn't tell if he was breathing. Dante slowly reached into his pocket, producing keys. "If you hurt either of them, you'll what? You're not exactly in a negotiating position." Victor gestured to his men. "Take him." 2 men moved toward Dante. He didn't resist as they patted him down, removing his gun, a knife from his ankle, and what looked like a small blade hidden in his belt. "The girl too," Victor ordered. Rough hands grabbed me, shoving me against the concrete pillar. I gasped as they searched me, taking my phone, my purse, everything. "She's clean." "Good. Bring her. Mikhail wants to meet the woman who made Dante Rossi stupid enough to walk into a church in broad daylight." "No," Dante said sharply. "You have me. Leave her here." "I don't think so." Victor's gun pressed against my temple, cold and terrifying. "She's insurance. Guarantee you won't try anything creative during the drive." They separated us, shoving me into one car and Dante into another. Through the window, I saw him fighting against his restraints, his face a mask of fury and fear. Our eyes met for one brief moment before my car pulled away. Then he was gone. The drive lasted 20 minutes but felt like hours. Victor sat beside me, his gun never wavering. "You really have no idea what you've stepped into, do you?" he asked conversationally. I didn't answer. "Dante Rossi is not a good man. You know this, yes? The murders, the extortion, the people whose lives he's destroyed. He told me what he was. He told you what he wanted you to know. He didn't tell you about the families he's torn apart, the businesses he's burned to the ground, the children left without fathers because Dante decided they were threats." Victor leaned closer. "My brother was one of those men. Executed in front of his wife and daughter because he refused to give Dante control of his shipping company." Ice filled my veins. "I don't believe you. Believe what you want. But understand this. The man you're falling in love with is a monster. And monsters destroy everything they touch." The car stopped at a warehouse near the docks. They dragged me out, my heels catching on the rough pavement. Inside, the space was vast and empty except for a few chairs and harsh overhead lights that created pools of brightness in the darkness. Dante was already there, tied to a chair in the center of one light pool. Blood ran from his nose. They'd hit him. Rage unlike anything I'd ever felt surged through me. "Kim," he said when he saw me, his voice rough. "Don't look. Whatever happens, don't look." They tied me to a chair facing him, close enough that I could see every detail of his battered face. Sophia was tied to his right, still gagged, tears streaming down her face. "Touching," a new voice said. A man emerged from the shadows. Older than Victor, maybe 60, with silver hair and cold blue eyes. He wore an expensive suit and moved with the confidence of someone who'd never known real fear. "Mikhail Volkov," Dante said flatly. "Dante. It's been too long." Mikhail circled us slowly like a shark. "The last time we spoke, You told me you'd burn my entire organization to ash if I ever set foot in your territory again. Do you remember? I remember. Yet here we are. In your territory. Holding your sister and your woman. Funny how power shifts, isn't it? What do you want? What I've always wanted. Control of the port shipping lanes. You've held them for 5 years, choking my business, costing me millions. I'm taking them back. Never. Mikhail nodded to Victor, who stepped forward and drove his fist into Dante's stomach. Dante doubled over, gasping. Stop! I screamed. Leave him alone. Mikhail's attention shifted to me. His gaze appraising. The girlfriend. Tell me, how much do you really know about the man you're defending? Enough. Do you know how many people he's killed? I don't care. You should. Mikhail produced a tablet, tapping the screen. 16 men in the past year alone. That we know of. Their names, their faces, their families. All destroyed because they stood in Dante Rossi's way. He showed me the screen. Photographs of men, some young, some old, all with the same caption. Deceased. Dante Rossi suspected. My stomach churned, but I kept my voice steady. What's your point? My point is that you've tied yourself to a man who will get you killed. If not by me, then by the next enemy. Or the one after that. Dante Rossi doesn't get to have normal things like girlfriends and happiness. Men like him die alone and violent. Then why haven't you killed him already? I demanded. Why this performance? Mikhail smiled. Because death is too easy. I want him to suffer first. I want him to watch everything he cares about be destroyed before I end him. Starting with his shipping lanes. He pulled out a phone, dialing a number. Do it. In the distance we heard explosions. One after another, boom, 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 rattling the warehouse windows. That's your warehouses burning, Mikhail said pleasantly. Your inventory. Your trucks. Everything you've built at the port's gone. And the authorities will find evidence that you orchestrated it yourself, an insurance fraud scheme. You'll be ruined professionally before I ruin you personally. Dante's face had gone pale, but his eyes blazed with fury. You're making a mistake. The mistake was yours. Thinking you could have weakness and survive in this world. Mikhail nodded to Victor. Show him what weakness costs. Victor moved toward Sophia, pulling a knife from his belt. No. Dante thrashed against his restraints. Don't touch her. I'll give you whatever you want, just don't hurt her. I don't want your cooperation anymore, Dante. I want your destruction. Victor pressed the knife to Sophia's throat. I want you to know what it felt like when you killed my brother. When you took someone I loved. It was business. He knew the risks. And this is business too. Everything happened in slow motion and too fast at the same time. Victor raised the knife. Dante screamed. And I threw myself forward with every ounce of strength I had, chair and all, slamming into Victor's legs. We crashed to the ground in a tangle of limbs and broken wood. The knife skittered across the concrete. Victor swore, reaching for his gun. Gunshots exploded through the warehouse. But they didn't come from Victor. Men in tactical gear poured through the doors, weapons raised. Federal agents, their jackets clearly marked. FBI. Everyone on the ground. Chaos erupted. Victor's men opened fire. The agents returned it. I crawled toward Dante, glass and debris cutting my hands and knees. Kim, stay down. Dante shouted. Someone grabbed me from behind. Mikhail, using me as a shield as he backed toward a side exit. Let her go. Dante's voice was raw. I don't think so. Mikhail's gun pressed against my head. She's my ticket out of here. We were almost to the door when a single shot rang out. Mikhail's grip loosened. He fell, a red stain spreading across his chest. Behind us, Dante stood free of his restraints, Victor's fallen gun in his hand. I told you, Dante said coldly, walking toward Mikhail's twitching body. Touch her, and I'd burn your world down. He fired twice more. Mikhail stopped moving. Federal agents swarmed us. Someone pulled me away from the body, checking me for injuries. Someone else freed Sophia, who collapsed into Dante's arms, sobbing. Dante Rossi, a woman in an FBI jacket said, approaching carefully. I'm Special Agent Caroline Pierce. We need to talk. Not now. Dante still held Sophia, his eyes finding me across the chaos. Is Kim all right? I'm fine, I called back, though I was shaking so hard I could barely stand. Mr. Rossi, you just killed a man in front of federal witnesses. You need to come with us. He was about to execute a civilian. I stopped him. That's called saving a life. Agent Pierce's expression suggested she didn't fully buy it, but she also couldn't deny the evidence. We'll still need your statement. And we need to discuss your cooperation with our investigation into the Kincaid organization. Dante's jaw clenched. What investigation? The one we've been running for 6 months. The one your security chief Spencer has been helping with. The words hit like a physical blow. I saw Dante's face go blank with shock. Spencer. He came to us 4 months ago. Said he was tired of the violence. Wanted out but knew he needed protection to survive it. He's been feeding us information on both your organization and Volkov's in exchange for immunity. Dante released Sophia, his hands trembling slightly. Spencer betrayed me. Spencer gave us everything we needed to bring down Volkov. He told us about the meeting tonight. We were supposed to get here earlier, but Kincaid moved up his timeline. Agent Pierce's voice softened slightly. If it helps, he spoke highly of you. Said you were better than most in your position. That you had limits. Where is he? Hospital. He'll survive the beating, though it was close. Dante seemed to fold inward, his carefully constructed control crumbling. The man who'd faced down armed enemies without flinching looked utterly lost. I pulled free from the agent helping me and ran to him. His arms came around me automatically, holding tight. It's over, I whispered. We're alive. That's what matters. I killed a man in front of you. His voice was hollow. You watched me execute someone. You saved my life. I dragged you into this world. You almost died because of me. Because I was selfish enough to keep you when I should have sent you away. Dante. This is who I am, Kim. This is the life I lead. Violence and betrayal and blood. You deserve better. You deserve someone who can take you to weddings without Russian mobsters showing up. Someone who doesn't have a body count. He was pushing me away. I could feel it happening. Stop it, I said firmly. Stop deciding what I deserve. Chose this. I chose you. You chose a fantasy. A fake boyfriend for a wedding. Not a killer. Not this. I chose the man who saw me when I was broken. Who made me feel strong. Who protected me even when it cost him everything. I grabbed his face, forcing him to look at me. I chose you, Dante Rossi. All of you. The good and the terrible and everything in between. You don't know what you're saying. I know exactly what I'm saying. I love you. The words hung in the air between us, impossible and true. Dante's eyes went wide, vulnerable in a way I'd never seen. Kim. Mr. Rossi, we really need to go, Agent Pierce interrupted. There are procedures. Give us a minute, Dante said without looking at her. He cupped my face in his hands, his thumbs wiping away tears I hadn't realized I was crying. You can't love me, he said softly. I'm not built for love. I don't know how to be what you need. Then learn. We'll figure it out together. Everything I touch turns to blood and ash. Not me. I'm still here. Still standing. Still choosing you. He kissed me then, desperate and claiming and terrified. I tasted fear and love and the bitter knowledge that this might not be enough. When we broke apart, his forehead rested against mine. If we do this, he whispered, if I let myself love you back, it won't be easy. There will be more threats, more danger, more nights like this. I know. You could walk away right now. Agent Pierce would put you in protective custody. Give you a new life somewhere safe. I don't want safe. I want you. Why? The question sounded like it was torn from somewhere deep inside him. Why would you choose this? Choose me. Because for the first time in my life I feel seen. Feel valued. Feel like I matter. I smiled through my tears. And because I think you need someone who sees the man underneath the monster. Who knows what you are and loves you anyway. Dante's composure finally shattered. He pulled me against his chest, his face buried in my hair, and I felt his shoulders shake. I don't deserve you, he said roughly. Probably not. But I'm staying anyway. We stood there in the wreckage of the warehouse, surrounded by federal agents and bodies and the smoking ruins of Dante's empire, and I had never been more certain of anything in my life. I was done being the safe girl who followed rules and got her heart broken. I was choosing the dangerous man who made me feel alive. And together, we'd find a way through the darkness. Or burn trying. The FBI field office smelled like burnt coffee and bureaucracy. I'd been sitting in this interrogation room for 3 hours, recounting every detail of the past week. My throat was raw from talking. My hands ached from the cuts and scrapes sustained in the warehouse. But I was alive. Agent Pierce sat across from me, her recorder still running, her expression professionally neutral. Let me make sure I understand, she said. You met Dante Rossi 1 week ago at a bar. Hired him as a fake boyfriend. Had no knowledge of his criminal activities or his conflict with the Kincaid organization. And despite learning what he was, you chose to remain with him through multiple dangerous situations. That's correct. Miss Crawford, I have to ask. Are you being coerced? Threatened? Because if Dante Rossi has leverage over you. He doesn't. I met her eyes steadily. I'm choosing this. Choosing him. Of my own free will. Agent Pierce studied me for a long moment. You seem like a smart woman. Smart women don't usually fall for mob bosses. Smart women fall for whoever makes them feel alive. I smiled without humor. And Dante Rossi makes me feel more alive than I have in years. She sighed, clicking off the recorder. Off the record. I've been investigating organized crime for 15 years. I've seen what this life does to the women who get involved. It ends badly more often than not. Is that what happened to Spencer? Things ended badly. Spencer made a choice to save his own life. To get out before the violence consumed him. She leaned forward. He told us Dante was different from other bosses. More controlled. Less sadistic. But still dangerous. Still running an empire built on illegal activities. What happens to Dante now? That depends on him. Agent Pierce reopened a file folder, spreading photographs across the table. The Kincaid organization is finished. We arrested 23 people tonight, seized millions in assets. But Dante's organization is still operational. Still breaking laws. She pulled out another photograph. Dante leaving the warehouse in handcuffs. His face expressionless. We're offering him a deal. He cooperates, gives us information on remaining criminal operations in the city, and we reduce charges to minimum sentences. He could be out in 3 years with good behavior. My heart clenched. 3 years. Or he refuses to cooperate, and we pursue maximum charges. Multiple counts that could put him away for 25 to life. He paused. He has 48 hours to decide. Can I see him? Not yet. He's being processed. But soon. Agent Pierce gathered her files. Miss Crawford, you're free to go. We have your contact information if we need anything else. I'd recommend you think very carefully about your next moves. I already have. I stood, my legs shaky from exhaustion and adrenaline crash. A victim's advocate met me in the hallway, offering resources, counseling, protection services. I declined it all. Outside, dawn was breaking over the city. The same sun that had risen on my heartbreak a week ago now illuminated a completely different world. My phone had been returned with my other belongings. 53 missed calls. Texts from Sally, from David, from concerned co-workers who'd somehow heard about my involvement in a federal raid. I ignored them all except one. A text from an unknown number sent an hour ago. Kim. It's Sophia. Dante asked me to check on you. Are you okay? Called the number. She answered on the first ring. Kim. Thank God. I've been so worried. I'm fine. Are you? Physically, yes. Emotionally. She laughed, but it sounded fragile. I'm working on it. This isn't the first time Dante's world has put me in danger. Probably won't be the last. How do you live with it? The constant fear. I love my brother. And I understand that his life, his choices, come with consequences. But he's also protected me, provided for me, been there when no one else was. He paused. He's not a good man by conventional standards. But he's a good brother. The FBI offered him a deal. 3 years if he cooperates. Sophia was quiet for a long moment. He'll take it. How do you know? Because Spencer's betrayal destroyed him. Not because of the business implications, but because he trusted Spencer. Considered him family. When family betrays you in our world, it breaks something fundamental. Her voice softened. But you didn't betray him. You stayed. Even after seeing the absolute worst of his life, you stayed. That means everything to him. I love him. I know. I could see it in the warehouse. The way you threw yourself at Victor to protect me, to protect Dante. You're either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. Both, probably. She laughed more genuinely this time. Good. Dante needs someone who's both. Can you meet me? There's something I need to give you. An hour later, I sat in a small cafe across from Dante's sister. In daylight, the family resemblance was striking. The same dark eyes, the same sharp intelligence, though Sophia's edges were softer, less hardened by violence. She slid an envelope across the table. Dante had Spencer give this to me 6 months ago. Instructions to deliver it if anything ever happened to him. She smiled sadly. He updates it regularly. This version is from 3 days ago. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a letter in sharp, precise handwriting. Kim. If you're reading this, I'm either dead or in custody. And Sophia felt you deserved answers I couldn't give in person. I lied when I said I was at that bar by accident. I'd been following you for 3 days. Not for any nefarious reason, but because Spencer mentioned seeing you at a coffee shop, mentioned you looked lost and sad, and for some reason I couldn't explain, I wanted to see the woman who'd captured my security chief's sympathy. When you sat down at Murphy's bar that night, I should have left. Should have recognized the danger in my immediate attraction to you. But you looked at me like I was human and I forgot how to walk away. Every choice I made after that was selfish. Agreeing to the wedding. Keeping you close. Letting you see parts of my life I should have hidden. I told myself I was protecting you, but the truth is I was protecting myself from loneliness. You asked me once if I believed in love. I said I believed in loyalty and protection and keeping promises. What I should have said is that I've been waiting my entire life for someone who could see both sides of me and not run. You're that person, Kim. You're everything I didn't know I needed. If we survive this, I'm walking away from the Empire. Not because the FBI is forcing me, but because you deserve a man who can take you to weddings without worrying about assassins. A man who can give you the safe, normal life you wanted before I destroyed it. I know you'll argue. You'll say you chose this, chose me, chose the danger. But I'm choosing you now. Choosing your future over my pride. Be happy, Kim Crawford. Find someone worthy of your remarkable heart. Dante. Tears blurred my vision. I read it twice, then a third time, letting the words sink in. He wrote this 3 days ago, I said. After the church. After he realized he was in love with you, Sophia corrected gently. My brother doesn't do anything halfway. When he commits, it's absolute. He's been preparing to walk away from everything he built because he loves you more than power. That's not what I want. I don't want him to give up everything for me. Then tell him that. He gets one phone call from Holding. I can arrange for it to be to you. 6 hours later, I stood in my apartment for the first time since the wedding. It looked exactly as I'd left it, but I felt like a completely different person than the woman who'd lived here a week ago. My phone rang. Unknown number. This is a call from a federal detention facility. Will you accept charges from Dante Rossi? Yes. God, yes. A click, then his voice, rough and exhausted. Kim. I got your letter. Sophia shouldn't have given you that yet. I'm not dead. No, you're just planning to give up everything that matters to you and make noble sacrifices I never asked for. Kim. I love you, I interrupted. I love you, and I don't want the safe version. I don't want you to dismantle your empire and pretend to be someone you're not. I want the real you. The dangerous, complicated, morally gray man who makes me feel alive. You don't understand what you're asking. The FBI's deal requires cooperation. Testimony. I'd be betraying people who've been loyal to me. People like Spencer. The silence was heavy with pain. That was different, he said finally. Spencer betrayed me first. Did he? Or did he make an impossible choice to save his own life in a world where loyalty is a death sentence? I paced my apartment, words tumbling out. You told me you believe in protection and keeping promises. Spencer kept himself alive. Maybe that's not betrayal. Maybe that's survival. Whose side are you on? Yours. Always yours. But I'm also on the side of you actually surviving instead of dying in prison to protect people who would probably do the same thing Spencer did if given the chance. Dante's breathing was ragged. If I take the deal, 3 years minimum. You'd wait that long. I'd wait 10 years if that's what it took. Kim, you can't put your life on hold. I'm not putting it on hold. I'm living it. And that life includes you, whether you're physically here or not. I stopped pacing, pressing my hand against the window overlooking the city. Take the deal, Dante. Cooperate. Get out in 3 years. And when you do, I'll be waiting. What if you meet someone else? Someone safe and normal and... I've had safe and normal. His name was David and he broke my heart. You put my heart back together, even while showing me the darkest parts of yourself. That's not something I'm walking away from. I don't deserve this. Don't deserve you. Stop deciding what you deserve and start accepting what you're being offered. Love. Loyalty. A future. The line was quiet for so long I thought we'd been disconnected. I'm taking the deal, he said finally. Not because I want to betray anyone, but because I want a chance at a real life when this is over. With you. That's all I'm asking. 3 years is a long time. Then we'd better make the most of visiting hours. He laughed, the sound broken but real. How did I get so lucky to have you walk into that bar? You didn't. I got lucky when you decided to stay. I smiled through tears. I have to go. Agent Pierce is waiting for my final statement. But Dante. Yes. When you get out, I want you to take me to Murphy's bar. I want to sit on the same stools where this all started. And I want you to tell me the truth about everything. No more secrets. No more holding back. It's a date. It's a promise. I don't break promises, Kim Crawford. I know. That's why I love you. The line went dead, leaving me standing in my apartment, crying and smiling and feeling more certain of my future than I'd ever felt before. 3 years. Could do 3 years. The next morning I called into work. Quit my job effective immediately. My boss was shocked, tried to convince me to reconsider, but I was done living the safe life. I called a real estate agent, put my apartment on the market. Then I called Sophia. I need a job, I told her. Something in Dante's organization. Something that keeps it running while he's away. Kim, you don't have experience. I have a business degree and 4 years managing complex projects. More importantly, I have motivation. Dante's taking the FBI deal, which means his empire needs someone to manage the legitimate side while he's gone. Someone he trusts. Someone who loves him enough to protect what he's built. Sophia was quiet. You're serious. Completely. It won't be easy. Dante's people will test you. Question your authority. Some will try to take advantage. Let them try. She laughed. Okay. When can you start? Today. 6 months later, I stood in that same federal detention facility, waiting in the visitors' room. I'd made this trip every week since Dante's sentencing. Sometimes we talked about his case. Sometimes about the business. Sometimes we just sat in silence, holding hands across the table, grateful for the contact. Today was different. Today I had news. Dante appeared, looking thinner but healthier somehow. Prison had stripped away some of the dangerous edge, revealing the man underneath. He smiled when he saw me, real and warm. You look beautiful, he said, sitting down. You say that every week. It's true every week. He took my hands. What's wrong? You look nervous. I have something to tell you. Multiple things, actually. I took a deep breath. First, the legitimate side of your business is now profitable. We've expanded into 3 new markets, all completely legal. When you get out, you'll have options beyond organized crime. His eyes widened. Kim, that's incredible. Second, I talked to Spencer. Dante's expression shuttered. Why? Because he asked to see me. Because I wanted to understand. I squeezed his hands. He's sorry, Dante. Sorry for the betrayal, sorry for the pain. But he also said he'd do it again because it saved his life and gave him a chance at a future. He wanted me to tell you that he understands if you can't forgive him, but he hopes you'll at least understand. I don't know if I can. You don't have to decide today. But maybe someday you can find a way to let go of the anger. For your sake, not his. Dante nodded slowly. What's the third thing? I pulled out a small velvet box, sliding it across the table. I know this is backwards. I know tradition says you're supposed to ask me. But we've never been traditional, and I'm tired of waiting for perfect circumstances. I opened the box, revealing a simple band. Dante Rossi, will you marry me? His face went through a dozen emotions in 5 seconds. Shock, joy, fear, hope. Kim, I'm in prison. I can't give you a wedding, a honeymoon, a normal marriage. I don't want normal. I want you. And I want to be legally bound to you, so when you get out in 2.5 years, we can start our real life together without wasting another second. I met his eyes. So what do you say? Will you marry me? Tears tracked down his face, the first time I'd ever seen him cry. Yes, he whispered. Yes, absolutely yes. The guard supervising our visit looked away politely as I slipped the ring onto Dante's finger through the opening in the barrier between us. I love you, Dante said, his voice thick with emotion. I will love you until the day I die and probably long after. I know. That's why I'm not letting you go. We married 3 weeks later in the prison chapel. Sophia stood as my maid of honor. Spencer watched from the back row, tears in his eyes. The ceremony was brief, the surroundings bleak, but when Dante said, I do, and kissed me across the barrier that separated inmates from visitors, it was the most perfect moment of my life. 2.5 years later, I stood outside the prison gates at dawn, watching as they opened. Dante walked out in civilian clothes, carrying a single bag of belongings, squinting in the early morning sun. He saw me and stopped. Hi, I said, suddenly nervous. Hi. He closed the distance between us in 3 long strides, pulling me into his arms. No barrier between us. No guards watching. Just us together, finally free. I kept my promise, I whispered against his chest. You kept every promise. He pulled back to look at me. The business, the visits, the ring on my finger. You gave me everything. Not everything. Not yet. Smiled. Come on. I have somewhere to take you. I drove us across the city as the sun rose, painting everything gold. Dante held my hand the entire way, like he was afraid I might disappear if he let go. We pulled up outside Murphy's bar. It's closed, he observed. I know. I bought it 6 months ago. Had it renovated but kept the bones the same. I pulled out keys, unlocking the door. Come on. Inside, the bar looked almost identical to how it had that night a week before the wedding. The same jukebox in the corner. The same worn stools. But cleaner, brighter, transformed. I led Dante to 2 specific stools and sat down. "You promised me truth," I said. "Everything. No more secrets." He settled onto the stool beside me, the same position we'd been in 3 years ago, and smiled. "All right. What do you want to know?" "Everything. The real story of Dante Rossi. Not the feared mob boss. Not the prisoner. The man." So he told me. About growing up in his father's shadow. About the violence he'd witnessed as a child. About the first time he'd killed someone and how it had destroyed something inside him. About building an empire because he didn't know how else to survive. About the loneliness of being powerful and feared and never truly seen. About sitting in this bar 3 years ago, watching a heartbroken woman, and feeling something shift in his carefully controlled world. "I knew you were dangerous," he said. "Knew you could destroy me more thoroughly than any rival ever could. But I couldn't walk away. I'm glad you didn't. Are you? Even knowing everything you know now. Even after waiting 3 years and changing your entire life." I took his face in my hands. "Especially after all that. Because we're real now. Not fake. Not pretend. Real." He kissed me, deep and claiming and full of 3 years of separation. When we broke apart, the sun streamed through the windows, illuminating everything. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now we build something new. Something that's just ours." Smiled. "I kept the legitimate businesses running. You have options. We could expand, go completely legal, build an empire that doesn't require looking over our shoulders. And if I want to keep some of the old world, then we navigate that together. Set boundaries. Make choices we can both live with." I squeezed his hand. "I'm not asking you to be someone you're not. I'm asking you to be the best version of yourself. For us." Dante looked around the bar, then back at me, something like wonder in his expression. 3 years ago, I walked into a church and everyone looked at me with fear. Today, I walk out of prison and you're waiting with love. How did I get so lucky? You didn't. We both did. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Congratulations on Dante's release. We should talk. There are opportunities for men with his skills. Legitimate ones. Call me Agent Pierce." I showed it to Dante. He raised an eyebrow. "The FBI wants to recruit me. Apparently your cooperation impressed them. Could be interesting. Could be dangerous. Everything about us is dangerous." I grinned. "Might as well get paid for it legally." He laughed, the sound free and genuine. "So that's our future. Dante Rossi, FBI consultant. One possible future. We have a lot of options." I stood, pulling him to his feet. "But right now, I just want to take my husband home and start living the life we've been waiting 3 years for." Best idea I've heard all day. We walked out of the bar hand in hand, into the morning sun, into a future that was uncertain and complicated and absolutely ours. Behind us, the bar door closed on the place where everything had begun. Ahead, the city sprawled in all its messy, beautiful complexity. Somewhere in that city, David and Sally were probably living their safe, ordinary life, never knowing how much they'd given me by breaking my heart. Somewhere, Spencer was building a new life with his second chance. Somewhere, Sophia was probably planning a welcome home party that would violate at least 3 of Dante's parole conditions. But here now, in this moment, it was just us. 2 broken people who'd found each other in the darkness and chosen to walk toward the light together. "Kim," Dante said as we reached the car. "Yes. Thank you." "For what?" "For seeing me. For staying. For loving me when I didn't know how to love myself." He pulled me close. "For giving me a reason to be better. You did the same for me." I kissed him softly. "We saved each other. Think we can keep doing that? For the next 50 years or so?" "I think we can try." We drove into the city, into our future, into the beautiful uncertainty of a life built on truth and love and the understanding that some things are worth fighting for. The fake boyfriend I'd hired for a wedding had become the real husband I'd fight the world to keep. And I had no regrets. Not one. Thank you so much for joining me on Kim and Dante's journey, my wonderful friend. Their story reminds us that sometimes the most broken parts of ourselves lead us to exactly where we're meant to be. Sometimes the dangerous choice is the right one. And sometimes, love finds us in the most unexpected places, transforming us into people we never knew we could become. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Did their story move you? Have you ever taken a risk that changed your life completely? Drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. Until next time, remember, you deserve someone who sees all of you and loves you anyway. Don't settle for anything less.